James Franklin, it's time to get it together.
You are Locked On College Football, smothered and covered, with your host, Barrett Sallee. Your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome into the Thursday edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. My name is Barrett Sallee. Appreciate you checking out the show. You can follow me on all the social sites at Barrett Sallee, 2 R's, 2 T's, 2 L's, and 2 E's. We have a big show today. We will talk about a new phenomenon in the world of the college football playoff, the 12-team college football playoff among administrators around the country. We'll also talk about a big transfer, where he could be going. And also, it is Thursday, which means it is time to shine. We'll go through a few players, a few coaches, a few units that need to shine this weekend in order to achieve greatness. Hey, the show brought to you by FanDuel, a $5 bet. If you win it, you get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's right. You go download FanDuel, you place a $5 bet, and you get $150 if you win it from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, it is time to shine. And specifically, it is time to shine for Penn State coach James Franklin. He has a reputation. It's not a good reputation. The reputation is that he's not a big game coach. He's good enough to get in the top 10, good enough to be relevant, but in previous years, in the 14 playoff format, not good enough to get there. Can't beat Ohio State. Can't beat Michigan. Obviously didn't beat Ohio State this year. It doesn't matter. They're in the playoff. They're in the Big Ten championship game. The Buckeyes are not. Oregon is there as an undefeated #1 powerhouse. This is another test for James Franklin. You got the players. You got the horses. You got a great running game. You got a good offensive line. A defense that has been lights out essentially the entire season. Most importantly, you have a quarterback in Drew Aller who honestly shocked me. I did not think Drew Aller was going to be a weapon. I thought he was going to be a liability. I thought the downfield passing attack would not be there. Now, they haven't used it a ton because they really haven't had to. But it's there. We've seen it. So we know Penn State is a complete team. We know it. How complete are they? Are they good enough to beat Oregon? Are they good enough to even contend with Oregon? Make it a 4-quarter game. In years past, I think a lot of us would say no. We'd say no. No, there's not a scarlet and gray helmet on the other side. There's not that beautiful Michigan helmet on the other side, but there's that creative, beautiful Oregon helmet with the wings. They basically take the place of Michigan this year. They're going to walk out of that tunnel and be the big bag bully. Be the team that, generally speaking, when Penn State walks out of the tunnel, gets them in pucker mode. Things get tight. James Franklin, can you fix that? How are you going to fix that? You're going to change your pregame speech? You're going to change your warm-ups? You're just going to let it rip and come what may? I don't know. I don't know. But the reputation exists. And a loss to Oregon, even though I think we'd all agree that Oregon is, generally speaking, the better team, that reputation is going to continue. It's going to continue. So, James Franklin, it is your time to shine. Now is the time. This playoff, the 12-team format, is built for a team like you, like what you've consistently been. Good, not great. On the brink, but never there. Change it. Change it. Show you can win the college football playoff. Not just get there. Not just be what you've been every single season. So, James Franklin, it is your time to shine. It's also Rhett Lashlee's time to shine. I love Rhett Lashlee. He's been on this show. He is one of the best coaches in the country. And yes, I truly believe he is one of the best coaches in the country. That is not hyperbole. That is legitimate analysis. He gets everything he needs out of his players. He has built a fantastic NIL program. He has executed the transfer portal in ways that not many other schools have, because he's got the players, but he also coached up the players. He built a locker room of harmony, not individualism. And now he's going into the ACC championship game against the Clemson team that has been the most dominant team in the conference for the last decade. Yes, this is not the same Clemson team we've seen, but they've got that paw on their helmets. And that matters. That's going to matter to those players. They grew up looking at Deshaun Watson, seeing Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, all those guys. So that matters to these guys. They need to put that out of their mind. That's on Rhett Lashlee. That is what his job is. Now, he's been making the rounds on some of the media circuit this week. He was on Ari and Andy. And, you know, Andy and Ari, they're great friends of mine. And Andy does a great job. We used to be partners on SiriusXM. They took advantage of a situation that is, I think, very, very confusing. And I think there's a delicate line for Rhett, right? Because after Tuesday night, Ward Manuel said potentially, yes, there is a scenario that if SMU loses, they could drop below Alabama and not make the college football playoff. Personally, I don't think that's realistic. I think that he was just throwing out a hypothetical, even though they consistently say, incidentally, that they don't want to deal in hypotheticals, and then they go right into hypothetical. But Rhett heard that. Rhett knows that. He said he heard it. He said he knows it. So he's got to avoid that. He's got to avoid getting mixed up in all of this nonsense, all of this noise, and just go out and do what you've done all year. Well, not all year. When Kevin Jennings took the starting quarterback job from Preston Stone, because that happened in the BYU game, which was a loss. The only loss that should matter to the committee. Big time. Especially for a team like SMU that literally went undefeated in conference play in its first year in the conference. But Rhett's back is up against the wall, and I think he knows it. So this is pressure that he has never faced before. He's been on staffs that have won at elite levels, but this is his baby. This is his program. This is built in his image. Does it work? We'll find out, because I don't care that Clemson's had a relatively down year by Clemson standards. Again, that's that orange helmet with the white paw. And all of these players grew up knowing that they're the gold standard in the ACC. So Rhett Lashlee, it is your time to shine as well. Texas's offensive line, last one in time to shine. Texas's offensive line got lit up like a Christmas tree, like that one right behind me. They got lit up like a Christmas tree against Georgia. Michael Williams was all over them. That front seven for Georgia was the reason they won the game. And it showed what a lot of us have seen from Georgia all year, or in previous years, that defense can take over. But that defense hasn't really taken over that much or that emphatically in really any other game this year. But Texas saw it. And I think what's really interesting, injury report came out. Look at the bottom. Kelvin Banks Jr. We obviously saw him get banged up last week. He is questionable for this game, at least as of 8 o'clock Eastern time on Wednesday in the initial report. Now, obviously, this will be updated over the next few days. But Kelvin Banks is a surefire first-round draft pick that played horrible. The whole unit played horrible against Georgia the first time around. Now, in reality, that was kind of an outlier. They didn't really do that any other game. They never really had that total meltdown in any other game, but it really doesn't matter because now you're going up to the team that did light you up with an injury to one of, if not the best offensive linemen, not only in her team, but in the country. So if Kelvin's not 100% or he doesn't play, how are they going to move the football? How are they going to protect Quinn Ewers? They didn't do any of that last time around. So Texas's offensive line, it is your time to shine. You're going to make the playoff anyway, but what a story it would be for Texas in the first year in the SEC to hoist up that trophy as SEC champions. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about rumors, not the kind you might think of, but they've been going round. We'll talk about them next. It's College Football Smothered and Covered. We are powered by Locked On. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel, our good friends over there. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, you can bet $5. If you win it, you get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today, FanDuel.com. You'll get started with $150 if you place your first dollar bet and you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Rumors, innuendo, in the recruiting game, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. We heard about Steve Spurrier retiring for about 10 years. We heard about Nick Saban retiring for about 10 years. It happens. It happens. Two quotes yesterday from coaches on different sides of the country jumped out and showed me that these things still exist. Now, Lincoln Riley at USC has not been successful. We've seen that the last couple of seasons. There have been rumors, and I've heard them really for a week or so now, week plus, that Lincoln Riley's trying to get out of his USC contract, and maybe North Carolina is a spot that he might find a golden parachute to. Look, I don't know if that's real, but it's something that's been around. It's something that I've been told that could be a possibility. I don't believe it's true, because a lot of that is used in recruiting. And again, I'm not going to half cover National Signing Day. I know the team sites do a great job. The conference sites here, the conference shows do a great job covering National Signing Day. I'm not going to fake it. You can't fake National Signing Day. You go to the experts for that. But there have been people spreading the rumor around that Lincoln Riley is leaving. We don't know it's a private school. We don't know exactly the specifics of his contract, but I would venture to guess that it's a pretty high buyout. But he said, I tell them I'm a USC Trojan. That's emphatic. That's something that if he's wrong, if he's lying, can come back to haunt him. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but it dovetails into something another coach was asked, and that is Hugh Freeze. There have been rumors that I've heard a lot where he might be just flat out retiring because the rumor says health issues. I've not heard that he has a health issue, but again, it's all about creating a narrative. It's all about spreading something underneath the surface to try to sway players from joining the team on National Signing Day, or even transfer portal players, which now is the big sort of goal for these coaches moving forward. Hugh denied those rumors. Are they going away? No, because they exist for a reason, so they can linger, so players can keep being told, hey, you know what? Lincoln Riley or Hugh Freeze, they're not going to be there moving forward. And what they said on National Signing Day when asked during the press conference, that's just to leave the program on good standing because it does mean something to them. It doesn't matter that they denied it. What matters is that they were asked about it. That kind of sucks because there's no way to stop that, right? It's like the old adage, when do you stop beating your wife? Well, I didn't. You had to deny it, though. That's what matters. You were asked the question. I hate that about recruiting. I really do, because it not only does it, look, you get players hear all these things, right? But from a personal level, like, it matters to these guys. Like, if that narrative's around, yeah, you're not getting these players maybe because of it, but you're under fire for reasons that don't exist, and yet you consistently now have to answer to something that's not real. It would frustrate the hell out of me. But that's out there. What's also out there is Jackson Arnold. I like Jackson Arnold. He was in a no-win situation in his first year as a starting quarterback at Oklahoma. Now he's in the transfer portal, and when you combine him with Connor Wegman and Miller Moss, those are the guys that in reality are going to be the ones that are top of mind for coaches who are in the market. I really hope that this year's struggles don't linger in his head, because he is a really good player. He did not handle the pressure well. He also didn't have 5 wide receivers for essentially the majority of his time as the starter at Oklahoma. That's not fair. Now, obviously, he lost his job. That's not going to change. If he stuck around, he would have to battle for that position, and he'd be fighting an uphill battle. Okay, I think a lot of old school folks would be like, well, yeah, go do it. Be loyal to your school. Why? The school's not loyal to him. And yes, he will be fighting an uphill battle somewhere else, in theory. But there are a lot of schools right now where he can go and be the front runner right away. Auburn, Florida State, there are a lot of them out there. And I really hope the narrative of Jackson Arnold doesn't become he's a failure, because he's not a failure. He was in a horrible situation and he got beat out. He got beat out and he got replaced, I think. I wouldn't say prematurely. It was just a quick hook, right? Sometimes you pull that hook out of the lake a little too early and the fish jumps off. That's, to me, is what happened. Still got the fish, didn't get to keep the fish. And that's kind of what I see right now with Jackson Arnold. We'll take a break. When we come back, fights. We love fights. There are some fights going on, at least virtual fights. It's College Football Smothered and Covered. And of course, we are powered by the Locked On Podcast Network. All right. To wrap things up, we've seen ADs fighting over the college football playoff, SMU and Iowa State. Brett Yormark saying that the college football playoff chooses helmets and logos over teams that are actually warranted, even though from the Big 12 perspective, the loser of the Big 12 championship game is not going to have much of a chance at all. Everybody's jumping in. And I find this really funny Because what if people like me said consistently that we're going to get a lot of unworthy teams in the playoff? So what happens at that point? You've got everybody stumping for teams that have legitimate gripes, that have resumes that should qualify, and they're going against teams with resumes that qualify. They wanted this. Brett Yormark wanted this. 80s and presidents wanted this. They created this because the public, well, because of money, but also because the public wanted this. So are we surprised? Should they be surprised that suddenly everybody's yelling at each other? And I'm not talking about fans. I mean, that's a feature, not a bug, for fans yelling at each other. But ADs, presidents, coaches, commissioners, they all feel slighted. Well, except for Greg Sankey, because Alabama's in. What did you think was going to happen? It's everything about this system could have been avoided. I'm getting back on my soapbox. I know I say always that I conceded the election and I'm going to do everything I can to support the candidate in the race to make things better in our college football world. I've said it and I keep going back to what I've said forever. This is not a good setup. It's not a good setup. You have a bunch of teams that are not worthy. You have a bunch of administrators with teams who are not worthy. You have a bunch of conference commissioners with teams who are not worthy. And yet they're all supposed to get a chance to win a national championship. Hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. Now, I did jump back into the discussion briefly on X the other day. Said maybe we should have just stuck with the BCS. Now, I'm going to address that. A lot of you jumped in with the image from BCS Know-How, which is a great account on X, saying it'd be pretty much the same. That's not the point. I know the BCS would be roughly the same. I don't care about the rankings themselves. I care about the structure. The BCS structure would be a whole hell of a lot better than what we have right now. Can you imagine how incredible the Ohio State-Michigan game would be if it eliminated Ohio State? Can you imagine that? It was already a big deal to begin with. But we already knew, hey, you know what? Yeah, Ryan Day's not a big game coach, and this is a surprise, and they can't beat Michigan and you know, whatever. But what if it actually did knock them out of playing for a national championship? It would have been unbelievable. The great thing about the old system is that you had to be on your A game almost every single week. And if you lost, you didn't know what that meant. The uncertainty was a feature, was not a bug. The fact that you could lose in week 2 and have no clue what that meant, but by God, you're going to scratch and claw to find out if it meant anything, made the sport so great. Getting back off my soapbox. Last thing, Bob Holt passed away yesterday. And some of you fans might not know who Bob Holt is. He has covered Arkansas, did cover Arkansas for decades. And he's one of the nicest men you'll ever meet. He's one of the nicest people in this business. He treated everybody with respect and with a smile on his face. And I think it was it was not an accident that at Media Days, Bob Holt was called first by the moderator every single press conference, because he had earned that respect from everybody. He had earned that respect from the people he covered, the coaches, the players. So sad day for for all of us in the media and all of us, around the country, because he was one of the good ones. He provided insight that not a lot of other reporters could provide. And Arkansas fans, you're going to miss him, but around the country, you're going to miss people like him. If you didn't know who he was the gold standard in our business. So Bob Holt, rest in peace. One of the legends. That'll do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Don't forget to subscribe to the subtext group below. I'll text you. You can text me while I'm at the SEC championship game. Please share, hit that notification bell so others can see and hear this show. Obviously, in terms of the algorithm, that's how we get this show out to the masses. Friday 5 picks coming up tomorrow. Until then, have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.